We talk a lot in marketing about not building your entire business on rented land. And I see the same thing in the short-term rental industry where the OTAs are fantastic, but you're also playing in that sandbox by somebody else's rules. In your experience, what makes a really great direct booking website?
The website's job is to convert. That's its first and last job, but also setting up trust. And trust is such a soft yet very real and tangible thing. Let them find the right property really fast, feel confident about it, click a couple of things, already booked.
What mistakes are people making with their direct booking websites?
Navigation bar, the entire header section, and overall just the hero section of the homepage.
The crux is the way that guests are finding your direct booking website is evolving by the day. Is your business or are your properties showing up in the AI tools?
Now with Atlas by OpenAI, I think we're no longer talking about generative engine search. We're talking about like agentic engine search.
Welcome to Get Paid for Your Pad, the definitive show on Airbnb hosting, featuring the best advice on how to maximize profits from your Airbnb listing, as well as real-life experiences from Airbnb hosts all over the world. Welcome.
Get paid for your pad. Get paid for your pad. Get paid for your pad.
A lot of hosts are still thinking about their direct booking website as maybe a nice to have, or at best, kind of a digital brochure, where it is becoming more important than ever to have a strong and effective direct booking website. So I am so excited for today's conversation. I am talking with Ellie, the founder of Hudson Creative Studio and home runner, who has built tens, if not hundreds, I don't know if you're at thousands yet, Ellie, of direct booking websites for the short-term rental industry specifically. So we're going to start there, and then we're going to also play at the end a little bit with something that is just emerging. Nobody's really figured it out yet, but it's how what's called AEO and GEO, essentially SEO for AI, is going to change how guests find places to book and book places to stay. Welcome, Ellie. I'm so thrilled that you're here.
Hi, Kay. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be part of the podcast.
Amazing. Yes. So I got introduced to your work. I think I just saw you on the footer of a whole bunch of websites, first of all. And I kept seeing your name and I'm like, dang, these are nice sites. But we started talking because with Freewyld specifically, we have been wrestling with our PMS built-in kind of like white label booking engine that you get from these PMSs. And it's fine. Like it's functional, but it doesn't really work. So we started talking specifically for Home Runner, where you are plugging in a booking engine into these websites. We'll get to that in a second. But before we dive into the nitty gritty, how did you get started in website design development, and why specifically the short-term rental industry?
Great. Absolutely. Super excited to talk about this. The origin story. I'll try to be quick. Always loved technology since I was a kid, and but quickly realized that maybe programming wasn't my forte. I loved communicating through technology, which is ultimately what web as a platform, if you will, is, that there's technology and there's visual communications. Before starting Hudson Creative Studio, I spent over 10 years as a creative director at a marketing and PR firm. I'm based in New Orleans, and we worked with a ton of different industries, just about every industry except for vacation rental, from government to education to city planning, what have you. So I've learned hard and fast on the job how to do many things, and we launched campaigns, branding, of course websites, won some awards. And I was at the place in my career where I think I was ready to take the next step, and a close friend of mine, David Jacoby of Hostfully, told me that he has some of his clients who are in need of a website, and the options were not plentiful, as it were. And I kind of cautiously stepped in. This was maybe June or July of 2021. And by November of 2021, I was basically, I had to put in my 2-week notice with my boss. It wasn't a big decision anymore. At first, I thought I could double dip, but the industry is fast and furious and fascinating and exciting. And every customer I talk to is a whole other story. As the saying goes, nobody majors in vacation rental property management. People come from all walks of life, talking to professors, engineers, founders, and everybody brings their personal journey and their personal ways of solving problems. And it's just a fascinating conversation, connecting with people. And what I've learned comes right in as these vacation rental operators are looking to stand up as brands, looking to stop being a commodity on a large marketplace of Airbnb and such, and actually present themselves to the world as a brand, which of course is a crucial move. And we're here for it.
Yes, yes, I love it. We talk a lot in marketing about not building your entire business on rented land. And where that conversation or that phrase comes from is not to build your entire business off of the back of like a social media account, like an Instagram account or a Facebook account back in the day when that was more popular. And I see the same thing in the short-term rental industry where the OTAs are fantastic. Like they drive a lot of business and a lot of bookings, but you're also playing in that sandbox by somebody else's rules. And Airbnb specifically is really making a push towards quality, which is great for guests, raises the bar for hosts, but it also means that 1-star review or even a 3-star review on those platforms can have a dramatic negative impact on your overall revenue. So it becomes really kind of scary and a little risky to depend solely on the OTAs for, I've seen most of, even because we work with a lot of 1 million plus short-term rental operators. We're managing over 1,700 in listings. I think if I had to guess, and I should have looked this stat up beforehand, but if I had to guess, I would guess over 80% of their bookings across the board, like on average, are still coming from OTAs. But we're seeing that more and more companies are getting wise to this fact, and they're realizing that they do in fact need to invest into their website and take control back over that relationship. In your experience, what makes a really great direct booking website? What makes one that has an impact on the bottom line in a positive way?
Great analogy. And I'm aware of the rented land coming back from the social media where you don't own the audience, right? And
Yeah.
it's kind of the same with guests. It's only if you have your own mailing list is when you own the audience, but everything else you can be deplatformed on Facebook or Instagram quite easily. And much of the same on Airbnb, where hosts are inventory. The real customers are guests, and there's no surprise that professional hosts are treated as commodity because it's the guests who are paying, if you will. And Airbnb knows that if one host steps back, somebody else, a bright, excited idea will be stepping right behind them. So they're not worried about losing inventory. They want to make sure that the customers, the guests, keep coming back, and that doesn't set up a very fair environment for the host, of course. And I was recently thinking about this analogy. There is actually another way to explore that slightly further. I will say that we love all of our partners, and every single PMS that we integrate with, is on a fantastic journey and has amazing things to offer. On the journey of a host, as they go through the process of sort of going from co-host on Airbnb to dabbling and trying to just figure out technology. They're getting on the PMS because they want to simplify things, figure out some automation. And the PMSs, of course, say, like, should you want to take direct bookings, we make these things available. What a lot of hosts don't realize when they start using direct booking tools provided by the PMSs is, in a way, they are building their direct booking business on a bit of a rented land themselves. Because the truth, and is not something that's immediately obvious, is that the vacation rental industry is an e-commerce industry. It's hospitality, of course, but it's also technology, and all of the browsing and searching happens online, on the phone, in a checkout line at a grocery store. And it's all challenges that e-commerce industry has been solving for decades now. We're coming to it a little bit late and thinking we're reinventing the wheel. But where am I going with this? The way to build your business, especially as an e-commerce, rather than taking a technology that is belonging to a specific integration partner and then building with them only, in order to properly maybe develop a long-term marketing strategy, a long-term SEO strategy, and long-term scale strategy, having your own independent website built on a platform like WordPress. And there's a reason why WordPress powers something like literally half of all of the websites on the internet. It is the right choice for 75% of businesses out there, because of so many reasons. And this website really then belongs to the customer themselves. And that is something they can invest in just financially, from a hiring standpoint, from technology standpoint, and something that they can carry over year, grow and build and scale. And this is what we primarily focus on. That's what Home Runner does, is that it takes the data layers out of the PMS, but brings all of the technology into the WordPress website and allows the customer to really have their own store rather than having like a booth at a mall per se. Really just build a store the way they want it and have a mechanism that allows them to scale and grow it over time. So to answer your original question of what makes a great direct booking website, I would say it does depend on where somebody's in your journey, because I've talked to so many operators they're not sure why they need anything beyond what the PMS is offering. And to be completely honest, then they really don't need anything else. They are exactly where they are in the journey, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. The priorities, the plans, the vision is really what drives this. So if somebody I would say our customers that really find value in working with us are the ones that really understand that they're building a brand. And a brand is something that ultimately separates a vacation rental from a specific type of vacation rental, like the villa that has something unique about it, and an operator and a team staff that have a very special approach to guest experience. Suddenly their entire portfolio is like a curated box of chocolates where, they all may be different, but there's a reason why they're all in the same box, and you kind of want to try them all. Even if you don't know what that flavor is, like you trust, the design of the box, you trust what the vision around that is, and you no longer even worry about which one you're going to pick, because you feel like this has been curated and I trust this brand, and what I'm picking is not just a random chocolate for the sake of sugar, but I'm going for what I trust to be an experience I will enjoy even without knowing everything about it.
That is such a great, I can't remember if it's a metaphor or analogy, but whichever it is, that is
Simile.
such a beautiful example. Yes. And
what's up, guys? Eric here. And before we dive into this episode, I want to introduce you to our podcast sponsor, Freewyld Foundry. Freewyld Foundry is a revenue management service, white glove, high touch service for the top 1% short-term rental operators. We're currently managing over $60 million in bookings, 1,700 listings worldwide, and we are growing very, very quickly. Our RPM program is a done-for-you revenue management service, and I want to invite you, if you are a short-term rental operator that's doing $1 million or more, or maybe about 15 listings or more, head over to freewildfoundry.com and apply for one of our free revenue audit reports. This is where Jasper and the team will actually take a look at your pricing strategy, audit all of your Airbnb listings, and let you know if you're leaving money on the table. So this is free to everyone who's listening to this podcast. Head over to freewildfoundry.com and apply for your free audit report.
For us at Freewyld, we were very invested right from the start to build a brand forward company for the same reasons. Like, we're kind of cut from the same cloth. I also came from marketing agencies in the past, and am just such a huge believer in brand, because ultimately it creates that preference and trust, like you mentioned, but it also creates pricing power where you are controlling the perceived value of your product. And that's often, or it should be, if you're doing the branding part correctly, it should be much higher than what the commodity level value of that offer is. So you're not just a place to stay, you're a Freewyld, or, insert your brand here. So we actually got something right from the start. We built a custom website on WordPress, so it's now a brand asset. It's something that we can control. But even with that brand forward perspective, we defaulted to using just the built-in PMS booking engine, like I alluded to earlier. And we're great friends with Hostfully as well. We love them. They're fantastic. But their booking engine is not awesome right out of the box. It could be a lot better, right? Like when you're on Airbnb specifically, because they're so design forward, like the user interface is just so easy. It removes a lot of the friction. It removes a lot of the uncertainty or anxiety that people have when they are putting in their credit card to book something. And what is so cool about your business is not only do you build these full websites with the Hudson Creative Studio, which I wish in retrospect that we would have used you from the start, because you're so dialed into what short-term rental businesses specifically need on their sites. But you've now added this home runner product where you can plug in a custom booking engine that integrates with the PMS to an existing website. How did you decide that that was a need in the industry, or what were some of the pain points that you were seeing on your end?
Great question. So we immediately, like day two, I like to say, as I mentioned, we started building websites for vacation rentals. And interestingly enough, our very first customer, who is still a great customer of ours from day one, is Home Sweet Hudson. And I couldn't tell you how many times people thought that since we're a Hudson Creative Studio, Home Sweet Hudson is a kind of a connected company. Maybe it's ours, but Ray is an incredible customer and we love working with them. After building the brochure version of the website and using widgets coming out of Hostable, we pretty quickly realized that that's going to be a limitation. And there was a vision around how properties can come into the website. To be honest, I was reinventing the wheel of e-commerce, and I thought I was just having these novel ideas of like, oh wow, this property can be connected to other properties if they have the same amenity. All of this is just textbook 101, just inventory with categorization, taxonomies, etc. But I got excited about the idea of implementing it in the context of a WordPress website, and immediately set to work. To be fair, I'm not a developer myself, but I got very fortunate to be connected with an absolute genius of a developer early on who is still with me and has now built a team of full-time developers. So we set up to build first just an integration, an ability to bring in the data, then to ability to show the data. That data needs to be reliable and kept up to date at every standpoint. Humble beginnings, but from that point on, we didn't have any expectations. We didn't know what a booking engine is or what it should be, but we've talked to dozens and hundreds of operators. So many smart, savvy operators who have been in the business for years, sometimes more. And they came to us with these incredible requests, like conversations that would go like, yeah, this is great, but what we really need is X, Y, and Z. And that's amazing. That makes perfect sense. This is what it should be. And, we're not very big right now. We were even smaller back then. So we were able to just quickly say, great, give us a day, come back, here you go. We have it now. And thankfully, building these layers with a quality dev team allowed us not to get into like tech debt and just create a hodgepodge salad of a software we are able to maintain and continue to optimize and improve on top of all those layers. So 4.5 years of that really brought the booking engine to a powerful place that it is now, and it's about to do another whole big leapfrog in 2026. And somewhere in the middle of all of this, I got tired of saying API integrated booking engine. There's too many words. And I started to look for a name for it. In the process, landed on Home Runner. We had customers every now and then say, yeah, but we have a website. We already spent a whole bunch of money on the website, or my nephew can build a WordPress website. I don't understand why yours are so expensive. Can we just have your integration? Not right now, but maybe one day eventually. And then maybe about a year ago, kind of woke up from repeating that same answer over and over and said, I think the time has come. And we put our heads down. And in February of 2025, so about 10 months ago, almost to the 14th, yeah, it was Valentine's Day of 2025. So exactly to the date 10 months ago is when Home Runner went live as a standalone solution. I had a vision, I had a hope, and I have to say I'm super grateful to feel like this market fit has been validated over and over by customers who would get on these calls just through organic search, through introductions, and they would say something like, if this is what I think it is, then I'm really excited to talk to you, and I can't believe it took me so long to find something like that. And it's
Good sign.
very gratifying to hear that from customers. So I'm not going to lie, that felt good.
I definitely had that experience talking with you because, yeah, same story. We found out that there was a tool. I think they're more specific to the hotel industry that does something similar, but they don't integrate with all of the PMSs that short-term rentals are often found on. And somehow they knew about you and said that they thought that you might be able to help us. And now I'm so excited to integrate Home Runner into the Freewyld website. We haven't done it yet, but it's like top of the party list for Freewyld. I'm really, really excited because I was exactly that human. It's like we've invested so much into building the website and telling our brand story, but we're falling short, like right as we're bringing people over the finish line to become a guest and to become a wilder in our vernacular. So I'm so excited that you built this and can't wait to implement it. And we'll have to share the results on a later episode of how it impacts our conversion rates, because we do track like how much traffic is coming to the site versus how many people do ultimately end up booking. And I love what you said earlier about changing your mindset to start thinking about yourself as an e-commerce business, because that is so true. And that's kind of the holy grail KPI that those e-commerce sites are looking at. It's like, of all of this traffic, how are we converting that into dollars? And I have a feeling, based on everything that I know, that it's going to work much better. So TBD on that. Let's drill in a little bit. Separates having just a pretty website to something that produces revenue. Like, if you had 3 priorities that you're trying to achieve with every one of your client websites, what are those 3 things?
To answer your question and your previous points you brought up, I'll quote, I think it was James Carville, maybe in the Clinton era, who said, it's the economy is stupid, right? When it comes to e-commerce in general and any decision, any strategy, anything that you put forward, it really is. It's the conversion stupid. It's conversion is the beginning and the end of the entire conversation. Like, your marketing is going to try and do its best to bring quality traffic to the website. The website's job is to convert. That's its first and last job. There's different methods to that. I would say, I'll list a couple. I bet I'm not going to list all of them. First and foremost, setting up the brand. And that means, of course, decommoditizing your inventory and saying, like, it means something to experience the brand. It's not just another box you reach your hand into and grab the first thing that you can touch. But also setting up trust. And trust is such a soft yet very real and tangible thing. Like, you don't know when you have it, but you sure know when you don't have it. Like, something that I've always found fascinating, like people, kind of a human mind, like psychology around e-commerce, around sales in general, people are always running this predictive engine in the back of their minds that is always asking the question of, if I do this next choice, will I be happy? Will I regret the choice later? On a simple level, like, will I be hurt or will I survive and be okay? But in terms of commerce, is it a choice that I will regret later? That's something that we just always run and are not, honestly, not very well optimized to do it, but that doesn't stop us from trying. So we're always thinking about it even if we don't realize. So when we are approaching something, we're looking for flags, right? Green flags and red flags. And they start to kind of mentally tally up one way or another. And the more green flags you put out and the fewer red flags you put out, the more that trust kind of builds and solidifies. Something wonderful happens when, it feels like all green flags, is that this inner process kind of relaxes and says, well, I think my work here is done. Seems like we're in the right place. I'm going to go take a break. You got it from here. And that means that now you're focused on finding the actual property that you care about, not trying to see, am I about to make a mistake? Am I going to feel stupid about it later? Or, is it going to cost me money and time and resources to detangle myself from it, or create a vacation for my family that, I'm not going to be proud of? And then they just move on to the next step. And the next step is arguably as important, making it really easy, because that is a very fragile time when somebody says, okay, let's do this. Let them find the right property really fast, feel confident about it, click a couple of things, be done, already booked. And it's like the whole thing is just frictionless. And those 2 things have to work together. The trust part, of course, is multi-layer. It's from branding. It's from professionalism. It's the no broken window kind of theory, like where attention is given to details. Because if the guest sees something that clearly, like, they wouldn't have let happen, so that means either somebody's not paying attention or nobody's paying attention. I don't know which one is worse. And then, of course, that critic in the back of their head, that process says, well, if they're not paying attention to this, then what else are they not paying attention to? And that process kind of ramps up. And even if they end up booking, now they are continuously looking for other things that maybe the host may have missed, because now host is in their mind somebody who misses things, and they're more likely to zero in on something negative. So the same exact experience for the guest, if they trust the host and then, let's say, a light bulb is broken, right? Light bulb is burnt out. They will assume positive intent and say, okay, it's nothing. It's not a big deal. But if they are just hyper vigilant about things that are not going right and the light bulb is burnt out, now they're writing 3-star reviews and complaining and trying to get your maintenance guy out there. So it's just a more difficult experience. So beyond just getting that guest to book, the guest who books with a trusted host will be a guest that has a better experience overall and will be easier to work with.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So establish your brand, build trust and convey trust, and then pay close attention to the user experience and remove as much friction as possible. That is so powerful. And then specifically on building trust, I love that realization because so much of this actually happens on a subconscious level. So, like, you might think that a typo on your website isn't that big of a deal. Like, it's not really hurting anybody, but on that subconscious level, you're exactly right. It starts that little red flag of like, oof, like, are these people professional? How we do anything is how we do everything. So if you're not paying attention to all of those little details, it can become actually a really big issue down the line. Even when they do book, like you said, that is such incredible advice. And then, of course, there's things like showing your reviews, being accurate, having other trust signals. I don't know if a lot of people in our industry are using Trustpilot specifically, but like things like Google reviews that are more, they're harder to game. Those can be really fantastic to bring into a site to convey that trust and just remove risk as much as possible. Guarantees and refund policies also kind of fall into that bucket of convince people, or let's remind people that this is safe and they're not going to lose their hard-earned money on a mistake, like you said, because our brain's job is to protect us. So fantastic examples. Do you have any other examples of common mistakes that you've seen, perhaps like clients that are coming to you for the first time to work together on their old websites or any other source that you wanted to pull from? What mistakes are people making with their direct booking websites?
Yeah, I have a good one, I think. Navigation bar, the entire header section, and overall just the hero section of the homepage. It's called the hero because it has a heroic job to do. Somebody lands on the website, those crucial first, 2 to 4 seconds is when this person is like, I'm here, what now? And do they click away? What is their first vibe? Do they continue? Do they stick around? Are they interested? So it's a very crucial time. And there's lots of studies around that. There is that F-shape pattern of the eye movement from the logo, navigation bar down, messaging, etc. That's critical time. So having an engaging header, but also a header that is not overwhelming. It keeps the messaging clear. It helps the guest understand why they're here and what the next action they should be considering, such as like book today, right? It's so often I've had customers come to us with a navigation bar that looks like it's like CNN.com or something. Like, I can only imagine the thinking is like, this is how professional we are because we have so many things going on and you can even do this and you can even do that and you can click that and also that, just in case you also were thinking about another thing and some weather, just in case you want to know, refocusing that and really thinking of a navigation bar as part of the narrative because that F-shaped pattern, there's reading involved. Those words, and maybe not scanning maybe is the better word. People don't really read until they choose to. At first, they just kind of like scan, pick out every other word, and just get a better sense. But telling a story through a navigation bar and saying like, here's what we have, here's how you can go about getting it. If it's also a homeowner acquisition focused site, which is a big topic, a very common conversation that we have with customers that are homeowner acquisition focused. Having that in navigation as well, and then the main call to action. As much as possible, everything else should be tucked away. When it comes to the footer of the website, at that point, I say just open the kimono and give them every single link. There you can be CNN.com. You can be all those things because if somebody scrolled to the very bottom of the website, there's no more room to scroll. That means that they've gotten to a point and they still haven't found what they're looking for. They're still looking for something. So at that point, give them everything. There's nothing to hide, no space to save anymore. Now we're in the footer. But then there's a trend that I like, combining the desktop navigation with sort of a hamburger mobile navigation, allowing sort of a 2-tier where you can have your main nav and then you can have like maybe an off canvas or a different UI, UX around it, showing your additional things. You want to show the contact us, blog, maybe additional things like that. Still keeping it focused, but going beyond that. You're here to discover these incredible destinations and things to do in a certain area, and maybe you want to list with us because obviously we are good at marketing properties and providing great guest experiences. So if you are a homeowner, then this is where you would click should you want your home to be a part of our inventory.
Thank you for that. I love little tangible, because of course there's so many different elements and so many different things that we could talk about. I literally, Ellie, I could talk with you for 5-6 hours about like buyer psychology and all of the ways that we can optimize our websites. But thank you so much for giving one very specific, tangible example, because that is something that people often do. I see it all of the time. So that was fantastic. I want to make sure that we talk a little bit more about what I teased in the beginning before we run out of time. And the crux is the way that guests are finding your direct booking website is evolving by the day. And even us marketers are still learning. So neither Ellie or I will say that we are experts and the authority in this, but I did want to pick your brain a little bit about what you're learning when it comes to what's called answer engine optimization or generative engine optimization. Layman's terms, it's is your business or are your properties showing up in the AI tools? Is ChatGPT recommending one of your properties as a place to stay if somebody is doing their trip planning on ChatGPT, for example? What have you learned is moving the needle there, or what are you learning?
I will say that anybody who claims to be an expert in this, it's got some sell you. Yeah.
Red flag. Yep.
Yeah. Things are changing so much, like week to week, all the time. Now with Atlas by OpenAI in play, I think we're no longer talking about generative engine search. We're talking about like agenic engine search. So it's kind of AEO, but instead of answer, these acronyms. But here's I don't know if it's my vision of the future is just to how I think we will be. I don't know, 6 months from now, because the future is moving fast, or 6 years from now. But basically, just we all are going to have our own personal AI agent that just knows everything that we care about. Those AI agents will just be talking to other AI agents, and we're not going to need to intervene at that point. Our AI agents will know when our vacation time comes up, what our kids' school calendars are like, what the weather is like in the places in the world that we like to go to, and that they will make the choices for us. And we're already, towing into that territory with like Atlas and Perplexity and other agenic AI, not just returning searches, but actually starting to make the choices. So as such, in terms of getting just recommended by ChatGPT when a question is asked, right? What are some of the best, I am going with my family, these are the things that are important to us, suggest some vacation rental properties to go to. I would say the baseline here is to make it as easy as possible for AI to find that information about your properties. So it's data, not just data, it's structured data, also known as schema, which typically comes in a JSON format. And so it's basically, that's what computers love to structurally give away and take in. As such, having thorough schema for your properties, that includes not just kind of the name, but quite a bit. Amenities, bedroom details, reviews data, maybe review sentiment, and more and more and more. And then have that data readily available, right there within the page. Then also the website itself be friendly to robots, so to speak, kind of like, accessibility accommodations for all different kinds of robots crawling the net. So that would include maybe creating an LLM.txt file along with the robots.txt that in Markdown explains the overall sentiment and directs to various files and folders that AI can explore. And I think that's just a baseline. Ultimately, in an agenic world, it's not going to be just they have my property show up as an answer to the question asked, but have my property be among the top of the options that the other agents will want to actually move forward and book. So it needs to be actionable. So that means a few things. It means trust, and then it also means, of course, easy accessibility of data and the technology underneath it that makes everything connect immediately. That said, the world of SEO, as you can know, it's not behind us. Something that a lot of people don't realize is the GEO and AO are in a lot of ways just rebranded versions of SEO. The very same FAQ schema that has always been a cornerstone of SEO is now driving the AEO, the answer engine optimization.
Yeah.
So putting emphasis on SEO is not out of style, and continuing to maybe targeting Bing search engine a bit more intentionally could be helpful. Maintaining data structure, something that we're proud of that we tackled about a year ago, is we're able to generate home runner dynamic valid, and this is a big deal, valid Google's vacation rental schema for the properties. Google a couple of years ago came out with a separate dedicated schema for vacation rentals. They're very stringent about checking for validity. There's just a lot that needed to be done in order for it to be valid. And now we have basically a one-click option that will just generate and embed right there in the page a valid JSON that will pass the rich search results test from Google for vacation rental schema. So that's a great way to, again, make it easier to get suggested. But of course, all of this is layers, and trust is kind of encompassing all of that.
Yes. Oh man, you sparked so many little threads that my brain is following right now because you're right. If and when, and this is a when we start outsourcing more of our agency to these trusted bots, essentially, even the design of the website becomes less important at that moment. Like it's a complete transformation from how we've been thinking about e-commerce and online marketing up until this point. Ellie and I I'm assuming here, but we both came up with this really strong attention to consumer psychology, like how the human brain works. But now with the way that everything's changing, we have to understand how the robots work and build for them at the same time, because like you said, we're moving towards that future. We're not quite there yet. So you have to have both. You have to be recommended, but we still have to have the human elements for when a human inevitably visits our websites, because they still are at this point. Wild, wild.
Yeah.
I,
It's so true. As you know, as a web agency ourselves, like I hate to be singing that tune, but exactly as you said, I think with the technology evolving, and not just around AI, but all of these like smart glasses, right? Like just like how are we even interacting with things? The idea of having a screen that is non-transparent and that you have to hold or sit in front of is going to be archaic, in X amount of time. So the whole concept of building a UI UX yourself at some point will be an outdated concept. And of course, we'll all adjust and adapt and move on and say that was a natural evolution. For the time being, and I would say, don't cancel your plans to build a great website.
no, don't do that.
But building data layers, having your data come out of strong structure, and that's our ongoing vision for Home Runner is, we are converting it into a platform. We have always been an enterprise kind of cloud-based infrastructure, but our vision over the past year plus has been and continues to work towards having that structured data, but also data layers that make that original data more contextually relevant, so that it's not just a single answer to a single question, but it's ready to be extremely relevant to a very specific type of guest asking a specific type of question.
Yes. Oh man, this is going to be huge. Oh man, I've been learning a little bit more on the marketing side, so it's like a little bit outside of this conversation, but just to share, because I don't think I'm going to have a whole podcast episode about this. And this is kind of similar to traditional SEO, but it seems that at least right now, the AI engines seem to be kind of favoring specific websites. So they're looking for websites that already have high trust, things like Wikipedia, YouTube, Reddit, and a few other examples. And having a presence where you're creating content for those platforms as much as possible is increasingly or maybe ever important, because those types of activities were always important for SEO, but they continue to be even more relevant as this revolution is happening. Have you heard anything to that end, Ellie?
Yeah, it's kind of ruining Reddit is what's happening, but
Right.
but I guess we all just need to go with it. But yeah, you're right. People are waking up to the fact that, and Reddit has an agreement with OpenAI, and so that's no surprise. But I've always relied on Reddit for more real and vetted answers. Even in Google search, I would just add the word Reddit.
Yeah.
If I'm not searching directly in Reddit, I would just add the word Reddit and then, feel like I'm getting the answer I wanted. But yes, now for a multifaceted marketing strategy, having a strategy that utilizes, and there are some gray hat techniques around that, and beyond that. Ultimately, of course, those are not long-term ways of approaching things. But yes, YouTube has always been, an important one. And when we work with customers, for example, they want to include a video on a property details page, and we do this by embed codes and custom fields. Our prime recommendation is to, if you don't already have open a YouTube channel, put any kind of videos that you will be sharing elsewhere, put them on the YouTube channel with some copyright-free music, right? And then utilize the description and the title, etc., with the links, so you can gain potential audience and get recommended to somebody else. So that's SEO. And then easier to embed into the website and have it play. We've solved the problem of embedding YouTube videos into websites where when they finish playing, those styles of related videos show up, and they're usually horridly unrelated, and that can really break your brands. We found a way to do that by generating a dynamic on the fly single video playlist, and putting it on repeat is important, because if it's not on repeat, it'll still stop and still show relevant. But if it's on repeat, that video will just play again as soon as it stops playing. So now we can have both best of both worlds. So
That's
YouTube,
amazing.
Reddit, having a strategy already, it's tricky what the strategy should be, but at least knowing about it, reading what others are doing, I can tell you I'm seeing some short-term rental subreddits and some PMS specific subreddits showing up and feeling a little astroturfy, kind of cringy, but recognizing that you got to put in the work, because that's what's going to get scraped. That's what's going to get suggested ultimately. So yeah, important part of the strategy for sure.
Yeah, super interesting. Like I said, I could talk to you for hours yet, but we are about out of time. So I'm going to wrap up here. Thank you so much for sharing. This was so insightful. And where would you like people to go find out more about the Hudson Studio and Home Runner?
Absolutely. Yes. As an agency, we've been around for over 4 years. So Hudson Creative Studio, a bit of a mouthful. That's where we still are, and offering websites. HomeRunner.io is the software that's making all of our websites be the full-featured direct booking websites as they are. And Home Runner is available as a standalone or as part of our kind of a full service package that we've built our business on.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I appreciate your brain.
It's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Get paid for your pad. Get paid for your pad. Get paid for your pad.